Boom. What's up, fam? Anthony Dream Johnson here today, founder of Redman Group, 21 Convention, 22 Convention, 21 University, 10,000 other things on the internet. Here today with episode 164 of the Redman Group. Joining me is going to be returning guest to the show and an alumni speaker of the 21 Convention. He's a big time YouTuber. I guess you'd call him an armchair philosopher and psychologist. Does great work on YouTube and helping people heal from toxic relationships, complex trauma, childhood trauma, all kinds of really cool things. He did a great speech at our convention and an entire course actually on his own that we have at 21 University, which is today's sponsor, as you can see. Pull it up right here. So today's sponsor of the show is Richard Grannon's actually the guest of the show, his CPTSD masterclass that we filmed most of with 21 Studios and that we host at 21 University. So you can go to the link in the description. You can learn more about that. If you want to buy it, my company makes money, so I appreciate that. All the money that you spend on it will go to, that we get anyway, will go to hookers, blow, and strippers. So if you want to do that, I appreciate it big time. Buy the course. It's really good, actually. It's over 8 hours long. It's got 9 videos. It's super fucking savage. I love it. We put out some previews lately, too. You can check those out. They're on YouTube as well as on the page. One is about escaping abusive relationships, and Will Smith, I think, is in one, which is why we did that. And then crazy female psychopaths and vampires, which is why we have that there. As far as Richard himself, you should go check him out directly. His main content is on YouTube and to some degree Instagram as well. His Instagram is linked up on the right here with this on his YouTube channel. But he's got like thousands of videos. He's got over 350,000 subscribers. He has another channel too, Richard Grannon Philosophy, which has another like 50,000 subscribers. A lot of very helpful videos that have helped me and a lot of you guys. This is one from 21 Convention we filmed. But he's got a ton of stuff. And he works with a lot of other people too, collabs and stuff, different interviews. Sam Vaknin, the Asian guy, I forget what his name is, Tentacle Croissant. He's pretty cool. I like that guy. Anyway, check out Richard's channel. Do subscribe. Just go to YouTube, search Richard Grannon, and I think he's launching a new website, which you can see there too. So I don't know the URL anymore, but he has a website, Instagram, all that great stuff. Anyway, without further ado, please help me welcome back to the Redman Group, Mr. Richard Grannon. How you doing, man?
I'm very well, sir. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. I apologize to you and everybody watching for my casual look. I'm in a car. I've just come from the gym. It's just the way this weekend has worked out. This was the best place for me to get signal. But It is a serious topic, and we do take it seriously. Being paid in blow and strippers, I wasn't aware that was how I was going to get my cut.
That's what I was told. That's what corporate told me. That's what I mean. I don't know.
That's what I asked for. Is this standard in Florida? Is this how payments are made?
Oh yeah.
This is the Florida man payment scheme.
The stripper capital of the world, to my knowledge, is Tampa, Florida. It's about 2 hours west of me.
Really?
So, oh yeah, they have a shit ton of strip clubs. Not that I would know firsthand or anything.
So if I wanted to sort of study CPTSD, there's plenty of potential clients and people to study there.
With unlimited problems. I had an old friend that used to be a bouncer at a strip club, like one of the doormen. And he just would come home every night with, a bunch of tips and a bunch of problems from these strippers that they would tell him. And he'd always tell me, he's like, they have unlimited problems. Don't ever date them. I never did, technically. So yeah.
But I've actually just gone back to doing nightclub security work, just because I was spending so much time on the internet and so much time on my own, basically turning into a nerd online. And it reminded me that there was a time when I worked in London where I did work for strippers, but it wasn't a strip club. It was like this. They were sort of a federation. They were Brazilian, of strippers, and then they would hire out locations, and then they'd hire me. I speak a little bit of Portuguese for the as the security. Not that they needed it, because they're ferocious enough themselves. They easily chuck the guys out, but just for the legal side of it. But yeah, the tips were amazing. Absolutely amazing. I was like, I'm in the wrong game. I should be doing what you guys are doing.
So I want to talk about a number of things today. It's been a while since we had you on the show. I kind of like having you on every year as like an annual guest. Kind of like a Jack Donovan, a Stefan Molyneux. You're one of like my, I guess a regular, if they're annual, could be considered a regular thing. But one of the top guys on YouTube that I love who's not banned yet. You've had an issue before. I know they did a strike against you and your Instagram got nuked. And
I'm close to being banned. If I say one more thing about being spiked in the arm, then yeah, I've got two medical misinformation strikes hanging over me. One more comment, and they'll delete the whole channel.
On YouTube, wow, holy shit!
Yeah.
Now those will go away in a number of months. They usually last 90 days. The strike system,
Yeah.
if they even follow it. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they do.
Oh,
But
okay, that's good to know.
I mean, Molyneux had no strikes, and they fucking just nuked his whole channel. So, and with
Yes,
me,
yeah,
they demonetized the whole channel, as you remember that, and there was no strikes. They just said, "Fuck you, give me your money." Now we got it back, but that was like that was balls in the chopping block, you know.
I'm actually, I spoke to some people at Rumble 3 days ago.
Hmm.
I find it hard to get motivated to upload new content to YouTube because of the appalling way in which they've acted.
Yeah,
So I'm
yeah,
going to move to Rumble, where they have assured me I can speak completely freely. They just have a totally different model. They don't sell data. They
yep,
don't. It's not selected by algorithm. It's just what people want to see. If they want to see it, you get the views. So I'll
yeah.
be moving to Rumble soon.
100%, dude. We have a channel too opened up a few months ago. Technically, I started like a year ago, but I never used it. But
Yeah,
once our thing on YouTube happened, I was like Rumble, 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 and I
yeah.
love it. I've talked to them too over email. They actually moved the headquarters to Florida, near my hometown.
Oh, good.
Their CEO moved to Florida. They also bought Locals, which is like Patreon, and you
Yes,
can use that for like premium content. We do that a little bit now with the audios from 21
yes.
convention speeches. So Rumble's fucking savage, and they've been around. I don't think they're going to get banned off the app stores either. And they have a lot of infrastructure and money. They just got like 100 million or something from Peter Thiel, the co-founder of
Wow,
PayPal. Yeah, so
wow.
Rumble might be the thing that finally takes on YouTube, finally, because everything else is
Good.
falling apart. You know?
I just find it, mate. When when I see what's happened to you and Molyneux and a lot of other people around me, and the fact that
Yeah,
like I'm editing my own words now, I just don't find it motivating. I'm just like, I don't, I
yeah.
could have a lot more followers on there, be making a lot more on there, and I just think I don't want to feed the beast. I don't want to feed their system because I think it's completely degenerate. It's completely corrupt at this point.
Intellectually degenerate and corrupt. Well, beyond that too. I
Absolute
mean,
degenerates.
everything they
Total,
promote.
total degenerates. Yeah, yeah.
Dude, we should get like a couple $100 billion like Elon and just buy YouTube. Like if you bought YouTube or I bought YouTube, that would be fucking great, you know?
It it would.
Like,
Just the small issue of the coinage. That's the only issue.
yeah. Dude, if Elon buys Twitter, man, I'm excited about that. I don't fully trust
Yeah.
Elon. I do like him a lot,
No.
but I do think he's on the right side of history, kind of like a Trump. And I trust him pretty highly for a billionaire, which normally I think they're just all evil scum, unfortunately.
Well, I'm watching from a distance. I don't really have strong opinions about Elon. Where I've seen him talk about Twitter, I'm sort of looking. I'm going. It just sounds like I think Elon is on. With all due respect, I think he's on the spectrum. I don't think he would deny that. Like he is probably on
Yeah.
the spectrum, like a lot of
Yeah.
highly intelligent people are. I think he's at 160 IQ.
Dude, all the best
And I
people are
think,
autistic. All of them. They're my favorite people.
well, and yeah, they're the best. And I think it's a somewhat naive step. And I mean that without criticism. I'm not saying naive negatively. I'm saying naive, possibly positively. He's
Mhm.
just seen a problem. He's an engineer. He goes, people want talk. People not able talk. Me make people talk again. I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I think, and I don't think there's much. I don't think there's an agenda beyond that. Like he's an engineer, he's seen a problem and he thinks he can provide a solution to it. So I'm
Yeah.
watching that. I think it's healthy. I think it's healthy to see the debate going public. Like, do we want to be like, where is this discrete boundary of free speech becoming hate speech, and who gets to decide? I mean, and obviously it's been massively overstepped by YouTube, which is extraordinarily ideologically driven. And
Yeah.
it's who wants to live in a world like that where your politics don't match what the politics of the platform provider are, and so you get silenced? I think it's disgraceful.
It is, man. And it's sad, particularly on YouTube, because it used to be much more so than Facebook ever was, and even Twitter. Twitter, they would LARP and pretend to be like back in the early 2010s, they would pretend that like Twitter was saving democracy and various like African shitholes and stuff like that. Or whatever these, these different, African Spring or what was it, the Arab Spring, all this stuff.
Arab Spring, yeah, back in 2011, yeah.
But now, of course, the big brother. But YouTube, though, is a place where there was like very little woke stuff, and it was very free and open. Because I was on here making
Oh, it was
videos.
wild.
Yeah.
YouTube was wild. It was the Wild West. I
Yes.
remember when they banned my self-defense channel in 2012. And it
Wow.
was like, okay, the winds of change are here, and they started moving towards being very corporate and very institutional. And then
Yeah.
I think it was 2013, a year later, the White House had its own channel, and I was like, this is over, this is
Mm.
done, this is done. They banned my self-defense channel for being too violent, and I was like, what do you guys want me to do? Like, teach people how to defend themselves from street violence non-violently? It was
Yeah.
insane. But yeah, what since that time, I think from 2006 to 2012, YouTube was another entity. It was a completely different thing.
Yeah. I loved it too, man. It was so awesome. I hope Rumble has that same, and I think it does have a lot of that same energy. It's a challenge if it can survive though and have enough funding and fight off different legal suits. They actually have a lawsuit against Google right now for $2 billion that's filed.
Really?
Yeah. They're accusing Google of manipulating, probably correctly, that Google is manipulating search results about videos to favor YouTube, their platform, over other platforms like Rumble and
There's
BitChute
no,
and whatever.
there's no doubt.
Yeah,
Does anybody
yeah,
doubt that these fuckers are doing that? I mean, there's just no doubt. And
yeah,
this is where it ties in with the theme. These are essentially narcissistic, psychopathic corporations rather than individuals.
yeah.
And we are now all in an abusive relationship with them. We're being
Mhm.
gaslit. We're being promised one thing and delivered something else. It's a classic bait and switch. This is what narcissists do. Come here, you can say what you want, share your content. I mean, for God's sake, where's their humility? Where
Yeah,
we made them. We made that. They don't make content, and when YouTube does make content, none of the people watching it have seen it, but YouTube does make content. It is garbage. They're useless, and then they treat us, the people who they have relied on until they
yeah,
became this multi-billion-dollar corporation. They treat us like crap,
yep.
and they say, "Okay, you're done. We used you." It's classic narcissism. Classic for narcissistically abusive relationships.
Yeah, it's like being thrown out of the moving car is what it felt like for me personally. I
Yeah,
mean, like I run a business and my channel is not personal. Like yours is Richard Grannon. It's personal to you,
yeah,
much more so than 21 Studios is, which is part me as a speaker, but part you and literally, 250 other fucking speakers. But
yeah,
even so, as the founder, it was really there was an emotional impact of it when they kicked us out of the partner program. We got banned in a specific way. They took all the
yeah.
money and they put my business in some ways in jeopardy and stuff. Our ability to monetize our videos, it's one of the main ways we do it, was YouTube advertising, which has
Yeah.
worked really well for all these years. And then they just fucked me in the ass, man. It sucked. We got it all back for now, but of course it'll happen again, and I don't know when. Next month or next year or 2 years from now or whenever the fuck.
My
So
mate that I do tentacle croissant with is Pierre XO. You mentioned it before. You've
oh,
forgotten his
yeah, yeah,
name,
yeah, yeah, Tentacle Man.
Pierre
Yeah,
XO, and he's more tuned into this. But he's been telling me he knows other YouTube. He's a social media influencer. He is a YouTuber. He's not like I use it to get the word out about CPTSD, narcissistic abuse. You run your business from it. He's
yeah,
actually a legitimate influencer, and he says a lot of influencers in the last 4 or 5 years have just gotten burnt out. They're struggling with legitimate psychological problems because of
yeah.
this kind of gaslighting, manufactured consent, coercive situation that
I
they've
feel
been
like
forced into.
I'm walking on eggshells every day on this channel,
Yeah,
just like you. It's
right,
it's really
right.
legitimately abusive. Yeah,
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And this is, if they told us this is what we were doing from the beginning, we would have said, "Well, screw you. We'll form our own platforms or whatever." But they
yeah.
didn't. So it's a bait and switch. You can't do this to people and claim that it's fair and legal and democratic and that you're the purveyors of social justice when you act in such a socially unjust way. These people are bullies. They're absolute predators and bullies.
Yes. Yeah, I love when you call that out. I remember in 2019 in Poland when you spoke. It was something that I was familiar with, but hadn't heard in this specific way before, and you did a great job articulating it. And you're talking about a feminist accuse everybody being bullies and sexist pigs and all this stuff, and you're like, bully, who's the bully? Because they say
Yeah,
it's really like classic projection. These people are
absolutely.
aggressive, beat 'em up bullies who will use speech and other mechanisms like cancel culture and even threats to bully the shit out of everybody, and they've been doing this for decades. Like it's insane.
Well, in that example, I was specifically talking about feminists accusing men of being toxically masculine.
Hmm.
And I was
Hmm.
like, no, you're the ones who are toxically masculine. You're the ones who are animus possessed. You're the tyrants, the bullies, the patriarchs, the finger waggers, the ones who are didactic and preaching to everybody. Whereas you're the toxically masculine bullies. And the most of the men who are around now, they're anima possessed. They're depressed, they're fat, they're anxious, they're like jellyfish now. Who did that? It wasn't men that did that. It was essentially it was feminists, and then the toxic echoes of feminism that came after that, which is basically
that's woke culture
dressed up misandry.
I also, if I'm following too, like I view like woke culture and all this wokeism and cancel culture and even the politically correct stuff from the 90s that sprung up, at least in America, was a thing. I'm sure in Britain too, it became, PC stuff. Is it politically correct? These are all children of feminism ideologically. Like the woke stuff didn't just fucking come out of nowhere. It's from feminism.
No.
Like, and Marxism and stuff. But
the funny thing about woke is it's actually a concept from Black American culture, which was appropriated by guilty white people, by guilty white liberals in America. So woke is not even woke. Even that's stolen. These people are always whinging about cultural appropriation. They stole the title that they used. These people are thieves. They're total degenerates. They're just degenerates.
They steal everything. I was doing a Redman group live at the 21 Summit last year, and I went off on this kind of little monologue with some of the panelists we had going on Redman group on the stage. And what I wanted to communicate to women, what I was able to say is that feminism, to all women there, we had them on the audience and then on the internet later, like feminism robbed you. It robbed you of your future. It robbed you of your femininity. It made you a weirdo, abusive bully in some ways. That's going to be a spectrum depending on the person, or the female, the birthing person. But it really robbed them. It robbed them of a future. It robbed them of their fertility. It lied to them and manipulated them. It told them to put career first and advanced schooling first and put motherhood and family last. These things are like biologically delusional, even if you have the ability politically and should to make bad choices for your freedom. But it's like they fucking robbed you. They robbed you of good relationships. They robbed you of being feminine, of embracing your femininity, of all this stuff. And they're thieves is really what we need to frame them as correctly.
It's a con. It's the whole thing is a con. It basically just doubled the workforce and half the pay. That was the whole thing. It's about emancipation. No, it isn't. It was about getting you into work. It was about turning you into a wage slave, getting you into debt and exhausting you and taking away from your family and taking you away from your children. You were sold a bill of goods. And I think it's high time we have this conversation like boldly and publicly. It's not a man versus woman conversation. It really isn't. It's a psychopathic narcissist versus normal person conversation. Do you want to be exploited? Do you want to be ideologically infected with nonsense that brainwashes you into doing stuff you don't want to do, that hurts you, whilst being forced to say that you love it? Is there anything more narcissistic than that? And I think that's exactly what this is. It was a con. The whole thing was a terrible con. And now, what is it, 40, 50, 60 years later, we are, we're reaping the results of that. We're going to bear that burden for generations to come, unless we do something drastic to fix it.
It reminds me of a great book by Swiss psychologist Alice Miller. It's called For Your Own Good: The Hidden Cruelty in Child Rearing and the Roots of Violence. She died a couple years ago, but she wrote a long series of books from like the late 70s until her death, I think in like 2010 or something like that. A lot of it reminds me of your work, which is why I had it ready for the show. But also with feminism, it's like, that's talking about abusive parenting and childhood and stuff. But it's that saying, like, it's for your own good. It's for your own good. Like feminism's for your own good. Doubling the workforce, having the pay is for your own good. Abandoning your children is for your own good. All this like insane shit.
And why then would I have, because I speak to mainly women, it's 80% women. Do I have women constantly contacting me privately? They'll never say it publicly that they don't want this. I have women saying, women who'll come to me. Some of them as young as 27. All I want to do is be a mother and have children. But I can't say that publicly, because if I do that, I feel like I'm a criminal and I'm going to be outcast and I've done something wrong. I'm like, how is that about the emancipation of women? Shouldn't women be allowed to choose what they want to do? So how is it the feminism has created a culture where a woman can't say, yeah, I'd like to be a stay-at-home mum. I don't want a real estate business. Thank you. I don't want to live that life. I just want kids. That's all. I just want to have children. And we live in a culture now where we go, oh, that's shit. Making people is shit. What is more magical than the ability to make life.
Yep.
How has that become evil? How has that become so diminished and treated with such contempt? It's insane. We have built an insane ideological prison for ourselves, and now we're rotting inside of it.
A woman, brother. A woman.
A woman.
I wanted to bring up
person.
I wanted to bring up a comment I thought was, because I had this on my mind too to ask you. So, commenter SD, whoever that is, thanks for commenting. If you're not familiar with Richard, you have to watch his videos to get the gist of him. He went from, I don't agree with this part, but he went from stuffy online therapist to talking about real issues, no holds barred psychology. Now, I wanted to make my own comment on this too, that some point in the past 6 to 12 months, you've always been a truth seeker, in my view, at least since I've been watching you since like late 2017, early 2018. We first started talking and stuff about YouTube and speaking and all that. But you have, I think, like me in some ways, we've both had our own trajectories online and as men and individuals, but you've gotten significantly more brazen and aggressive and bold, and I fucking love it. I mean, you have like turned up the volume on your inner alpha male. You're like a pureblood alpha male now. Before you were like mostly alpha. Now you're like hardcore alpha male. I'm teasing the
Before
audience.
I was
but
purple pill.
no, you're like hardcore red pill as fuck now. And I think part of that now for me, and I imagine for you too to some degree, but you can comment, we've seen the world get so fucking crazy exponentially so. Not in a gradual way. It's been really exponential in the past 2.5 years around the world, not just America and Britain, but everywhere. It's just gone, everything's fucking burning and it's crazy.
Yeah.
And for me, I've cranked up the intensity and the volume as a response to that. And I think it's a healthy response because it's like, you mentioned this abusive relationship, the abuse is increasing. So you have to defend yourself more aggressively and fight back more aggressively. And I think that's what's going on with you. But if you can comment on that, because your tone has really gotten, this guy's not kidding. Like you've taken the gloves off. It's what it feels like. You're fighting bare knuckle now. I'm like, yeah, it's fucking great. Share.
Well, so sometimes I think from 2019 till now, when I first spoke at 21 Studios,
yeah.
Obviously I had my criticisms of things, but the last 3 years has really ripped the sort of dressing off the wounds. Now we see how bad it is. In some ways the abuse has gotten worse, and in some ways it's just gone on for too long. And I sort of have that. I think the Romans used to write it on sundials, and the Roman clock, and it would say it's always later than you think. So I have that in my mind. I'm aging. I see my sister's 2 young boys growing up, and I'm like, if we assume that it's later than you think, and I believe we're on a track that leads to gulags and genocide, then however close I think we are to gulags and genocide, we're closer. So there isn't the time. There just isn't the time. And anyway, what are they going to do? What's anybody going to do to me? You're going to cancel me? You're going to write mean comments about me? Boo fucking who? So what? Go the fuck ahead. We fought for the freedom that we had. We fought to have all the beautiful things that we have. Our forefathers fought for them, and for generations it was blood, sweat and toil for this. So I can sit and talk to you on my little fucking iPhone and sit in my nice car outside my nice gym. I didn't build this. I didn't build any of this. I could be a slave for somebody now, but other people fought so that I would have the freedom to do this. And now I respect that, and I'm grateful for that, and I don't take it for granted. We all know war's broken out in Ukraine. Britain could potentially be unofficially at war with Russia at this point. Let's not take any of our order or any of our freedoms for granted. We have to fight for them, and they are being eroded. I think what's happening in America, obviously America goes first and then we'll follow, at the moment is disgusting. Like some of the stuff that's going on with trying to teach little children about adult sexuality and weird adult sexuality, niche adult sexuality and fetishes. And I'm like, what? Why are we even having that debate? Why is that even a discussion? It should be completely illegal.
Check out this meme I posted yesterday. I found it. I fucking love it. People are going apeshit over it. Maybe you saw it. I'll post it real quick. Hang on.
Oh, the wolf. Perfect.
The wolf. Yeah. I just want to read some books to your chickens. Yeah, totally. It's insane. Like these people all belong in jail. You don't belong within, 10 miles of a fucking school. if you want to teach
What?
6-year-old children about butt sex, like, I'm not okay with
Okay.
this.
So anybody who finds what you just said offensive, right? Vividly imagine me, with the sunglasses on, slightly sweaty from the gym, in a vest, and I go into your school and I'm going to talk to your 6-year-olds, and I'm going to tell them with a fair degree of detail, not totally intimate detail, but this is what happens. My heterosexual sexual preferences, the kind of girls I like to have sex with, the positions we have sex in, how, the role play we do. Really, you would just sit back and go, no, that's very good, because 6-year-olds need to know what this 44-year-old man likes to do in his spare time. What are we doing?
Yeah.
I don't even know how this is a debate. And when I say it's later than we think, that's what I'm talking about. It's
Yep.
not that it's happening and people are outraged. It's that it's happening and people are going, with their own children, should we let little Timmy hear this? Are you mad? Are you mad? Try and put that anywhere near I love or I know or my kids. There's no question about what's going to happen. There's no way I would let that happen, because it's totally perverse. It's abuse. It's
Yeah.
abuse. But we're so numb now. We're such cucks to abuse. We don't even recognize abuse for being abuse. We just
Yep.
go, no, this is normal. This is how people talk. No, it isn't. It wasn't normal 5 years ago. I don't know why you dummies all think it's normal now.
Yeah.
But if you let it happen, it'll keep happening. It'll just keep
Well,
happening.
it reflects what you're saying about the it's always later than you think, the old saying, the Romans or whatever. It's like they took over the schools, they took over the universities, they took over Hollywood, they took over most of the governments, they took over the militaries, they took over these institutions, these corporations, like everything, almost everything in culture across the West, in America and Canada and Britain and Australia and whatever. They took all this stuff over years ago. And now, even decades ago, in some ways, it wasn't all at once. It was gradual, and then it picked up more steam, even more universities, even more people. The old guard retired. You had these new woke people come in. And now this is the fruit of that. Like, this
Yeah.
is them, they took over. And now, so that's why 5 years ago, those symptoms, these expressions weren't showing just yet, but they were obviously about to on a timeline,
Yes.
which is what we're seeing now. And yeah, they're coming after the kids. All these crazy Christians from the 90s and 2000s saying that it's a slippery slope. They're going to come after your kids and shit. Look, I'm not a Christian, but these people are right, and credit's due where credit's due. These people are literally coming for your children, and
And
they're not going to,
openly,
and openly, and they're not going to stop.
they're saying it. They're proud of it. We're coming for your
Yeah.
kids. We're coming for your kids. Really,
Mhm.
try me, bitch. Try me.
So
Coming for the kids.
there's an internet meme that I don't want to get too much into it, but I can outline the details of it, the basics. It's just an internet picture, typical meme. And it's basically stating that like white people around the world are like very slow to act, but eventually they just snap and things get fixed. And
That
that might be where this
that
is going.
that's what worries me, mate. So you and I, you're further right than I am. I've moved right from the left towards the center in the last 3 years, as many people on the left have. Because we're looking at the left and we're going, well, this doesn't represent my beliefs. This doesn't represent my values.
To be clear,
My
this is
fear right now.
your characterization of my political philosophy, not mine. I don't really call myself right, although I understand why you're saying that. I respect it.
Look at you with your red cap on and
Make
your
men
gun.
alpha again.
Are you wearing a gun right now?
I have two. I have that one and then the one in front of me too. Both are loaded. Now, what I care
You're
about though
right.
politically, I care about reality and I care about the
Yeah.
founding fathers and the founding of America. These are basically my political positions and where they come from. And Ayn Rand
So
would be
so
the reality part too.
so would you agree you're right of center?
I don't like the left right thing in general. I just care about what's real. I care about what's true and I care about what's objectively true. And that to
Do you
me
know
is where
about the
political philosophy should come from.
where the y-axis as well, like there's authoritarian and libertarian.
Yeah.
So you're probably more towards individual responsibility and libertarianism. You're not a libert. I'm not saying you're a libertarian,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
between authoritarianism, you would choose libertarianism, right?
Yeah, and people would choose that for me, characterizing my statements. So I get why you're saying the right and libertarian thing.
Yeah,
It's just these things
yeah,
don't matter to me, and I think even if they're useful in conversations, and I get what people like to make these little maps of where people are politically and stuff. None of this
yeah,
matters to me. I don't call myself a conservative. I will describe myself sometimes as like, well, number one, an objectivist because philosophically that's true. or even like a Ron Paul Republican who was a hardcore libertarian in America. He was a former libertarian presidential
What a
candidate.
shame he never got a chance. What a
I know.
world we'd live in now if he'd done 4 years.
Yeah, I know.
Or 8.
I know. Yeah. Anyway, though, I don't want to get in the weeds on it. Go ahead with your
Yeah,
former previous comments.
King Ron DeSantis 2024, and I'm a lefty. Go on. Sorry, mate. I'll move to Florida when it secedes.
Yeah. I wonder what it is about Florida, because Florida was my main experience of America growing up. Like, obviously, I traveled. I saw, a number of the states, not all of them, not even close. There's fucking 50 of them plus territories. But most of my experience of America growing up was Florida. And it was so weird for me in 2019 or 2020 obviously I've been watching politics and landscape and the culture change all these years, and it's crazy. But to see in 2020 all these states, like all this insane COVID shit and lockdowns and all this crazy crap, and then of course Ron DeSantis doing his thing, that to me was, the culture and the media anyway framed that as weird and he's the bad guy and whatever. But to me, that's completely normal, especially as a Floridian. Like, I grew up in the wild. Like, we grew up on the water, playing with sharks, alligators, manatees, dolphins, giant Jewfish groupers that weigh 500 pounds. Like, we would go to school sometimes and see a 6-foot monitor lizard look like a fucking dragon just walking around. Like, this is how I grew up. Like, it was very wild. Snakes, like, they could fucking kill you. And like, Florida's a wild place. And that to me, and there's so much freedom with that too, though. This state is very, like, there's a reason Ron is our governor. That is the Florida man. Those are my people. Like, America is secondary to that to me. I'm a Floridian first.
Yes.
And ran.
I understand that. I told you straight away when the whole lockdown was happening, and in order to get into America, I had to go to the Dominican Republic first, and I flew into Miami to go see my sister in California. I couldn't believe Miami. I was just amazed at the freedom there and the vibe that was there. And it was, I only had 3 days there, and I was devastated because it was so good. It was so good to be there.
Florida is heaven on. I call it heaven on earth, man. It's that good. I haven't traveled maybe as much as you, but I've seen a lot. And Florida is my favorite place in the world, man. Even more than Australia. Obviously the politics suck there, but a lot of beautiful places. But Florida is just fucking so savage and so beautiful too.
Yeah. I would, if it did secede and it was an option, I would definitely move there. Yeah.
My hope is that Florida is the future of America, as grim as things look right now, not only in America but throughout the West. And Ron our governor has been key in pushing things, opening the Overton window for other governors to follow him, because they're all beta males and pussies. If it's not Trump and Ron DeSantis, they're pretty much all beta males and pussies, and a lot of them are frauds too.
Yeah, I think we are back into politics again. But I've been ever since I went there, I was like, well, who's the governor of this? Who's calling the shots here? And I've been following him ever since. I've been following Ron DeSantis ever since, and I'm very impressed. I'm very, very impressed with him.
Did you see the other day? He just passed a bill. He signed it into law in Florida, and now it's a program, and it's the first ever of its kind I've ever seen in America. It's a bill that puts $70 million towards fatherhood in Florida, specifically fatherhood. The whole campaign is called "Strong Fathers, Strong Florida," and it's all about helping fathers.
How aroused were you when you saw that?
Oh, very. I'm like, patriarchy is getting back in the game. I loved it. Because I'm not necessarily a fan from a political philosophy angle of that, but it doesn't matter to me because the situation is so dire. And if we have any hope of restoring like good governance that's not corrupt and aggressively advocates and protects individual rights and freedoms, it's going to come from fathers being strong fathers, leading their families, raising healthy children, not abusing them. We're not going. Humanity's not going down the toilet, so it's not. So this is going to happen. So we can either have it. This is the point I was going to make before, actually, and I got waylaid. Okay. We can either have it nicely, so people like Ron DeSantis can go, "Hey guys, we're gonna move now the other way, and we're gonna be sensible again," or you can have nutters, total psychopaths who will really overcome. You said white people will say nothing and then snap. Yep.
That's what I'm scared of. I would rather do the Ron DeSantis thing of being like, okay, everybody, let's just let's just move in the right direction. There's going to be a lot of hysteria. There's going to be a lot of screaming, a lot of complaining, and people with blue hair tearing their blue hair out and tearing their septum piercings out. We have to let that happen. Otherwise, if it gets bad, I would be, yeah, I heard the implication of what you just said, and I'm very worried about that, because the United Kingdom and America, I'll speak of the countries that I have an investment in and that I know well, are majority white countries.
Yep.
And I, I'll just leave it at that. People can, do their own mathematics inside their head. I'm not for war. I'm not for violence. I hate violence. I don't like conflict. I think we're all adults. This could be a beautiful world. It's the Garden of Eden. We've so much wonderful stuff here. We
Yeah.
don't need to waste our time killing each other and gouging each other's eyes out when we could be dancing and fucking instead.
Yeah. I'm all about it, man. Yeah, and it's like you said, it's going to be a lot of hysteria, people pulling their hair out of their head and screaming, but that is a much better option, and I'd like to see that too. But I'm okay with whatever happens. At this point, I have a preference for what happens, but I'm just kind of indifferent, because what matters to me is human life, number one, as a value, as a standard of value. That's where my philosophy morally comes from, and philosophically is individual human life first and foremost. And directly, just like the Declaration of Independence, how does it state the rights? Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, those are rights; those aren't values. There's a conceptual difference there. But freedom, individual freedom, follows that directly, and that's what these governments should protect: the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And they need to do that, or we're going to make them do that. Like in my speech in 2021, for example, State of the Manosphere, I said something that people really loved and people were going kind of apeshit for. I said, basically, like, I'm an American and you're going to leave me alone, or I'm going to make you leave me alone. That's how this relationship's going to work going forward, because it's an abusive relationship. And this is how you handle bullies. You're going to leave me alone, or I'm going to make you leave me alone. There's no other. Those are your options.
Rattlesnake with the logo "Don't tread on me" underneath it.
Yes. Dude, my country was founded, like, I got a lot of love for you, man, 100%. But as well as I do, my country was founded shooting lobsterbacks, British people, killing them. We tried talking to you, and we tried making you go away, and then you didn't want to leave, so we just fucking started killing you. Like, listen, that's the history of my country.
And if you don't fucking sort your country out, we'll be back to take it over. Yeah. This is something I said to you a couple of years ago. I think it was during the riots. I was like, the one thing America needs now is a good external enemy, and I think the Brits should do the right thing, put the powdered wigs on, put the red coats on, and go and invade again, just so you feel like a unified America all over again.
Yep. But I think Florida, like I said too, has a lot of this attitude, both politically, as you see, but also like as a place and as a culture and a geography. And I actually think the geography is part of what, I've written a little bit about this in blog posts and newsletters, but I really mean it, that the geography of Florida is like extra American. And that's why they call us, the meme in America is that Floridians are crazy. Like, we're the crazy Floridians and whatever, right? The crazy Florida man. This is nonsense. We're just like more American than you. Now, Texans would probably disagree, and they might get offended by that. I don't care. Good for them. They can go do their Texas thing. But I love Florida is so savagely American. I remember even in a TV show, you probably heard of it. What is it? The Handmaid's Tale. That's like ultra feminist show. It's hysterical. The first episode is amazing because it's like every feminist nightmare put into a TV show with a high production budget and value. It's amazing. And what's interesting is that the Florida in America goes through some sort of civil war, and a new government takes over, and it's pretty well done anyway as a show. But the Florida people, the Florida men, are the last men to hold out in the Civil War. They're literally, that's how they portray them, and that to me is so Florida. Now, we would win, of course, we wouldn't lose like in the show, but spoiler alert. But it's a very wild place, and my childhood, man, really, I think it's part of what drives my. And I'm fortunate because I think this is how human beings everywhere should live, narcissistically, perhaps, right? Or some people might accuse me of anyway. But this push towards individual freedom, minimal government. There was no government, on the water in Florida. There's cops, but they're very, very rare. There's like it's just very wild. Like, you have to be very self-responsible to take care of yourself on a boat, or you could die, drown.
I think we can assert that there's something natural and biological to that stance. It's like asserting that there's something natural and biological to humanity. We are, most of us, the overwhelming majority, the product of heterosexual union, for example.
Yeah.
And when we were raised and weren't left to die out in the cold, it's because we had a mummy and a daddy that kept us fed. Maybe not you, maybe not me, but most of the generations before. That unit does not need government intervention. That unit does not need authority figures filling in the gaps on their parenting or teaching their kids about sex or medicalizing their children, because that's
Yeah.
what the authority of the parents inside the nuclear family would do. So I think we can state that the type of thing you're talking about actually has what the Weinsteins maybe would say is there's a good evolutionary match or a poor evolutionary match. So there's a political system that's actually a good evolutionary match for the human animal that we are today. And that
Yes.
would include, yeah, absolutely, like a nuclear family. I think there's room for everybody in the world. If you're into this kink, this fringe, that fringe, I don't care. It's nothing to do with me. But the fact is, the 8 billion of us are here. 99.999% of us are here because of heterosexual union, and we survived childhood because one or both parents had their shit together enough to keep feeding us and not to let us get run over or eaten by a fucking lion.
Yeah.
End of. It's not that complicated, man.
Yep. Well put. Now, I want to actually, get off politics because I think both of us
We
have
did
an
we did
interest in this.
40 we did 41 minutes there. Sorry, La.
Well, some of it was also about. I mean, I look at your savagery and your increased aggressiveness and your personality. I love it, and I don't think that's entirely political. A lot of it, I think, is much more based in psychology and culture and that range of issues that you're focusing on. Because you see also how they connect to these other domains, and I'm all about that. I think everything philosophically is connected, basically, whether it's more morality, epistemology, abusive relationships, and how that affects your own personality and psychology, metaphysics, even politics, art, right? Art, things like that. But I do want to move off it and talk about more CPTSD issues because a lot of the
Sure.
fans on my channel, they're not. Recently, we put out some videos of you that actually did really well. I appreciate you sharing them too. But that was one of the first times they'd seen a video of you on the channel, at least in a few months, 6 months or something like that. And we're always growing. So I want to talk about that. So first of all, this is a ad I made for the course, which I love, and everyone loves it.
Yeah.
So you didn't make this, but I made it, and I think it is really funny and just wild. So it's the alien putting her whatever the fuck that is on the alien through
Tongue,
this.
mouth, demon animal through the back of a
Yeah,
man's skull.
yeah. Does this look like your last relationship? You're not alone. Richard Grannon CPTSD masterclass is here to help. Only at 21 University. But talk to me about. I mean, first of all, what do you think of this ad? Because I didn't get your approval for this. I just kind of did it, and I was like, he'll probably think this is fine.
I'm so hopelessly addicted to narcissistic, psychopathic, predatory women that I think that alien girl looks kind of hot. I actually probably, yeah. Look at that. Look at the curve right there. I mean,
Oh,
she's not
she's
missed
sexy,
leg day once.
sexy woman. Yeah, that's funny.
I'll hold that tail. I think it's good. I think one of the things, mate, is I think the comment before about me being a stuffy online therapist. I mean, I'm not a therapist. I've never really been stuffy. I've always made stupid jokes and whatever, trying to keep things light for people. But I understand that I've changed my style a little bit as I've grown as a man, as a human being.
Yeah,
And I like that because it's funny. Now, most people think childhood trauma isn't funny or CPTSD isn't funny, but actually, those of us who experience childhood trauma, those of us who have like CPTSD and some pretty serious psychological issues as a result of it, you
yeah,
were raised in chaos, I was raised in chaos. We have this kind of a sense of humor. And I think there's this sort of feeling like, no, you must, it's disrespectful. You have to be like this. Well, I just got my book done and they were doing the cover. And they said, what do you want on a cover? And I said, whatever you do, don't put a woman in a cardigan in a summer dress in a field of wheat with a sunset. And don't put the word journey in the fucking title. Make it dark. Make it look like a Stephen King thriller. Anything but that. The flavor, it's so bland and vanilla and neutral that everything in
yeah.
psychology and therapy should be. Why? You're not bland, you're not neutral, I'm not bland, I'm not neutral. Why do we
Yep.
have to take all the flavor and the funk out of everything because we're talking psychology and it's serious? Well, is it serious? I mean, yeah, life sucks. It fucking hurts. It always did. Life on earth is traumatic. It always was. If you go to any country where they've experienced serious trauma, like you go to the Balkans, their sense of humor is dark, man.
The
You go to
Russians too.
Bosnia,
The
the
Russians.
Russians
Yeah,
too. You hear the jokes they tell about the siege of Sarajevo, and it's against themselves. This is Bosnians telling jokes against themselves.
Well, it's like the old.
fucking hell.
There's an old Russian joke, and it's, well, at least a meme I've seen. It says dark humor for Russians is like food. You don't get any. You don't get it. It's fucking
Nice.
brutal.
So I like the advert, and I think
Yeah.
CPTSD is so rife now. Narcissistic, abusive relationships are so rampant now. It's just out of control. We're really in a pandemic of that. Like, we've got to reach more people. And if everything is bland and dour and not funny and has no color, some people just won't even tune in, mate. You know yourself. They'll just be like, ugh. You know, you will read the books. That's why I respect you, is because when you say you read a book, you didn't just listen to it on an audiobook for 20 minutes. You mean you read the fucker from cover to cover. You've read more books on this than I have. And you read them quicker than I do.
Paper books, man. Real books.
Paper, real, physical books that you can hold and you can smell.
A book. Double book.
A book. A double book. So like, I just think for most people, though, they won't do that. And so even as I'm moving forward, I'm going to try and use less technical language. Apart from anything else, I don't think it actually massively helps people to hear a load of technical language, and it can turn a lot of people off. So that advert, I loved that. I thought it was really funny.
Thanks, man. And I appreciate your sense of humor for it too. And I do wonder if it's because we have our own traumatic histories that opened up the window for this kind of dark humor. But I do think it's healthy, and that whether or not you had a traumatic background, as an emotionally mature adult, male or female, you should have a taste and a respect for variations of humor, whether it's a stand-up comic or talking about a serious issue. You can go too far with it for sure, but the range of not going too far is really wide. And these people, these stuffy, banal, uptight fucking wasps in America and around, I hate these people. Yeah, they're losers. They are, whether conservative or liberal or whatever the fuck. Like, people, I wrote a whole newsletter yesterday that people loved. People are texting me about it on my phone. I know a newsletter is good or something, or a video is good. Like, I put out a view. When people text my personal cell phone, that is not even like widely known. I don't put my cell phone number on fucking Twitter, right? People text me, "Oh, I fucking loved your newsletter." I'm like, "Oh, great." And the whole newsletter was called "Conservatives Are Frauds." That was the subject line, right? And then I went into that, and I ripped conservatives a new asshole. Anyway, because a lot of them are just stuffy beta male frauds, and they're no better than the limousine liberals that they call hypocrites. They pretend to. I mean, one of the things I pointed out is that, I think liberals in America anyway, these limousine liberals, these whatever, right? They are hypocrites, right? Like, the right calls them out all the time. Hypocrite, hypocrisy, double standards, this and that, right? Well, that doesn't matter to them, because they're actually more philosophically consistent, because they don't pretend to care about hypocrisy. These motherfuckers do. These conservative beta males. You're a hypocrite. It's like, motherfucker, you're a hypocrite too, but you pretend to care about it, making you a double hypocrite. You're double the fraud. They're fraud. You're right. They're hypocrite. And you're pretending to not be hypocrite because you're a fucking pussy and a beta male, and you're ideologically driven in ways that you're concealing, which makes me fucking hate you, because you're a fraud and you're a piece of shit and you're anti-reality.
I think, I think you're on the money there. So there's a couple of things. One is, there is no political side that owns this anti-reality element that's crept into everything.
That's right.
Where the story trumps the reality, or the feeling trumps the data. That we will not progress as a society. We're not going to fucking progress if we keep up with that. That cannot be hyper normalized. That you're gonna put forward a story over reality, or you're gonna choose emotions over facts. Like, there's no future in that. That is a society. That is a civilization in collapse. 100%. I will defend that statement to the death. That is an indication of a society in collapse. The second thing is the social media mindset. It's all about follows and likes. So of course, then you're entraining your brain to be like, basically a panderer. We're all pandering. We're all fawning. We're all codependent with our audience.
Yes.
Just tell them what they like.
A woman, and a
birthing person.
But you're right, and I fucking hate that about. This is one of the things I hate about social media in general, is all the. And I'm not only against this. What I try to do with my internet brands and personality, or whatever you want to call it, whether it's the business one or the personal, and I do a couple, both. I try to get people to hate me usually. Like how many, like fuck the likes and all this bullshit. I want the downvotes. If it's reality based and there's a truth purpose to it. It's usually not just random. But this is why I make the memes that I do. I'm like, how aggressive and super intense can I make this meme while still respecting and advocating for the truth? How many times can I twist the knife in these people's heads to make them crazy? And I love it as long as it's true. With Jordan Peterson, it's been fucking wonderful. He has the biggest collection of codependent simps, these little codependent lobsters I've ever seen. So it's endlessly funny to me to make these people hate me because
Well,
they
it
are
depends
not
on what you
reality
mean
folk.
by codependency, Anthony. Depends what
Yeah.
you mean.
Depends about the metaphysical connection to the ontology, the teleology, the epistemology, the moral philosophy of the lobsters and the dominance hierarchy. Don't you understand?
What a postmodernist. He socially deconstructs everything. Everything. He cannot answer the question, "What's your favorite topping on pizza?" without being like, "Well, it depends what you mean by." That's pure
Yep.
postmodernism. That's
Yeah.
pure postmodernism.
Yep. It's not like he hasn't done, positive things in culture. People misinterpret, my criticisms of him. I like a lot of his former
Oh,
dunking he used to do on feminists and stuff.
it's
And
great. He's
yeah,
great. Long may he continue.
but
Long
he's
may he
but he's
continue.
but
But
he's lost.
he's
He's
not God.
lost. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
not God, and I think he's very lost. I think he's a man he basically just constantly, like you're saying, over deconstructs things, but he also just constantly regurgitates what other people believe, and he has no. He
Yeah.
even talks about. There's a few videos where you can see him say this, and his fans would know it. He's like, my philosophy, if there is one, and it's like, no, you clearly don't have your own philosophy. You just regurgitate what 1,000 other philosophers have said, and you don't distill it into your own original thinking, or very rarely do you do that. You're always leaning on these other people. You don't think for yourself and you can't articulate it from an original position. He's someone who's read too much and knows too little.
I think like as far as that goes, there's a very I mean, if you go down this route, you'll have Jordan Petersonites jumping up and down all over you with as much vehemence as any radical leftist feminist now.
I
Completely
can't.
hysterical.
I feed off of the hate. I love it.
But there does have to be a conversation. Just well, in my personal opinion, we say, okay, what does this man actually believe?
Mhm.
Or is he very cleverly making good assessments about what people need to hear at a certain moment in time? Because that's not useless. That's not a useless ability to be like, wow, what does the culture really need? He was a university professor. He's surrounded by young male students who are completely lost and depressed. And he was like, well, they probably need some order and a burden and a responsibility. And he got it right. That's actually correct.
Clean your room. Clean your room.
Your damn room. That doesn't mean the same dude then has the solution just because he's ascertained what the problem is. Very often, the people who are good at ascertaining what the problems are not the same people who provide us with the solutions. That's not how culture has worked for millennia. Some people are problem spotters. Some people are solution givers. It's like the difference between him and Slavoj Žižek, though, is Žižek knows this. Zizek knows that he's not a provider of solutions, and he'll openly say, look, I'm a philosopher. I'm not here to give you answers. I'm here to help you construct better questions.
Yeah.
Peterson is a little more in love with his own image, and he's like, well,
Yep.
yes, I can tell you the truth as well. And then at that point, it seems to go in a vague way. It leans very biblical. It becomes very Judeo-Christian. And I'm not for or against that. I'm just like, but why? Why that? Why
Yeah.
isn't it Ayn Rand, as you say, or Buddhism, or I don't know,
Hinduism, Brahma,
or
like,
anything? Yeah,
yeah.
right. Why not? And
Yep.
it does feel sometimes like a bit of a reach. He knows what the problem is, doesn't really know what the solution is, but instead of having the humility to go, well, I don't really know, he'll just say, this is the light, the truth, and the way. When I think,
Yep.
based on his own life and how old he was when he got back involved in drugs, and he's clearly struggling with depression, maybe
Yep.
just lean out. We don't need you to be that, JP. We're cool with you just being a philosopher, and just I think the criticism comes when you start pretending you can do things and you have answers that you don't have. That's a problem.
Yeah. I want to upload an image real quick to review the Peterson fiasco. One moment. Technical difficulties, fam. Where is this?
He
Oh,
didn't
here it
just
is.
randomly get addicted to painkillers, by the way, folks. That's not true.
Yeah, he's a beta male drug addict, is what I call him. Anyway,
He was deliberately mixing Adderall and painkillers. Go ahead. Sorry.
do you
Oh,
see this
nice.
image loaded up?
Why are you so mean? Why are you so mean?
Dude, the photo. No, look, the beta male stamp on his forehead. I did that. We did that. I had my guy do that.
Yeah.
But the makeup is real. I didn't do that. That's a real photo that Michaela posted of her father in drag makeup. And then this is Michaela. We put the pink hat on her. That's it, though. The rest of that is that's not Photoshop. That's a real baby. That's her baby, Jordan's grandbaby, on the bed, on the floor, in the background, with her half naked, 80% naked mother in front of her with a camel toe. I mean,
Did she post this on Instagram?
Yes, she ended up taking it down, and her dad liked it. The real photo, you can see he liked it. I'm like, this is your daughter and your granddaughter. Like, what the fuck, man? This is a dude. Look, man. I went to college, like you did a long time ago. And if a girl has a bed on the floor, it doesn't even have a box spring. I mean, it's literally just a mattress on the ground. That's some major hoage, man. That's some garden tool extraordinaire shit going on there. Are you kidding me? I mean, and then posting like naked like this, like, dude, this is not. And these are the people. These are the conservatives. They're not technically conservative. At least Jordan's not, right? He claims he's not. Different. He claims to be liberal. He's kind of. He used to work for the UN. He admitted that recently on Twitter, which is a globalist feminist shithole of an organization. But these are the people that conservatives are their heroes, right? Oh, these are my heroes. Base Jordan Peterson in drag makeup. Really? This is your base fucking truth teller? You know what he struggles with most? I found videos where as recently as like 2020, they ask him on these big TV shows and stuff, what rule do you struggle with most from the 12 rules to life and whatever, right? The first book. And he goes, immediately he jumps to telling the truth. That's what he struggles with. Telling the truth, honesty, or at least don't be dishonest or something. It's like, dude, you're a public fucking intellectual, and the number one thing you struggle with at 60 years old is telling the truth. What the fuck have you been doing for the past 60 years, man? This should be the easiest thing for you to do, is tell the fucking truth. That's your fucking job. This is like a plumber who's like, I struggle with most is indoor plumbing. Like, and this is the daughter he raises, man. This is what's going to happen to the granddaughter. Is anybody thinking 20 years from now what that baby is going to be doing? I feel bad. It's a funny situation, but I feel bad for the kid. Look how the daughter turned out. How's the granddaughter going to turn out? This is a disaster.
This is no longer an interview. I'm just an audience member to the roast of Jordan Peterson by Anthony Johnson.
You made the first. I pinned your comment on that video. I loved it because I love. I was like, here comes Richard Grannon jumping in with the whiplash.
There's a whole stand-up bit there that you could do. Oh yeah, my whiplash thing was him saying, just get the damn vaccine. And what did he say? Suspend judgment for 6 months. So turn off your critical thinking, suspend judgment for 6 months, get the damn vaccine. And then 6 months later, he was like Captain Libertarian, savior of the American truckers. Come on, man. Come on.
He's a flip-flopper. He's a flip-flopper. He's a politician, basically. Yeah.
No, it's too much for me. And then the people in your comments were like, no, he never said that. I posted a video of him saying it, and they went, okay, he said it, but he didn't mean it. Like, okay.
Yep.
All right.
No, they're people. Jordan is not. I want to make it clear that in my criticisms of Jordan, and I think you would agree. I think you would agree anyway. I've never got the sense that he's malevolent or malicious. He's not that kind of. So I'll call him like a beta male fraud and stuff, but I don't mean it in any kind of like predatory way. Even though his fans are codependent, and there's a lot of, to me, it's this giant disaster of codependent lobster simps, and that's a thing. But he's different from someone like a Rollo Tomasi, who I think is much more malevolent and predatory and stuff.
It's different.
Jordan is a bumbling kind of buffoon.
I think that's what I was going to say. When you said malevolent, the adjective that came to my mind is preposterous. Like his posturing on some things is frankly preposterous, but it's not. This is a guy who's lived a fairly privileged life. I mean, it's hard for us. You're an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur. The academic world is it's a soft and gentle insulated and insular place. A lot of respect is afforded to professors, and he's a public intellectual and he's a writer. So he's not. This is not. Nobody's claiming this is a dude with edge. Or well, sorry, some people do because they're completely brainwashed. But he's not. He's not an experienced guy. He's not a worldly man. And this is when he talks about women and he talks about relationships and his wife and his daughter, you get that sense like he's not a very worldly guy. He's been in the system since he was 20 and now he's 60, so it's 40 years. Like he's been in that system for nearly as long as I've been alive, so it's it makes sense to me that he's a little bit that way. But no, malevolent, no, I don't think he's malevolent at all. And
Yeah, I don't
all
either.
of our criticism and roasting of him should stop at the point where people think we're saying no, he's a bad person. No, but if you follow him blindly, there will be bad consequences for you. Absolutely.
Yes. I agree 100%, particularly in the last part with the blindly. People accuse me sometimes of saying like, I'll criticize Jordan or I'll criticize Christianity or some other religion and like, oh, you want me to follow you blindly? I'm like, no, you've actually missed the entire fucking point. Not only do I not want you to follow me blindly, I really mean that. It's not a LARP. It's not, because some people say it like the Fraud Father. They'll say these things like, oh, I want you to be free. And they don't really mean it. It's a way to rope people in. It's bait and switch. I really mean this 100,000 million%. And if you follow me blindly, I'm going to make fun of you. That's how far I'll take this. I will personally roast your ass. Because
not only will I not be your cult leader, I'm going to fucking mock you for being an idiot whilst you do it.
Because you've completely missed the point of everything that I've ever said and everything I've ever done through my work with 21 Convention and 21 Studios and the Redman Group.
Yeah.
I really want you to think for yourself and lead your own life and make your own decisions and trust your own judgment. And if you don't do that, you're a fucking idiot. And I'm going to make fun of you. I'm going to screenshot it and roast your ass and use you as cannon fodder to make you cry until you fucking listen.
This is what men used to do, ladies and gentlemen. This was what we were normally allowed to do before it became politically incorrect. And this is how men corrected other men, through mockery. When you're in like worlds like little enclosures of masculinity, like boxing, MMA, nightclub security, I guess inside the manosphere as well, you still see it, but it's a dying art form. What a wonderful way to regulate each other's behavior.
Yeah.
And to ask each other to do better. We just need to do better.
Yeah, we do need to do better. We need to make fun of more beta males and frauds. My newsletter I wrote yesterday too, I talked about in relation to this cracking skulls in the manosphere since 2019, where I became much more public about opposition to frauds and predation. There's in the manosphere community and industry, Manosphere Inc., I call it now, like conservative Inc. There's a grassroots side and there's a commercial side, and that's always been the case. But I think the commercial side has gotten increasingly predatory and malicious in some ways in the past 5 to 6 years, something like that. And I'm not okay with it. And I want it to end, and I'm going to stop it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a just cause. Because where you have people who are predators who saying they care about men, you actually care about men.
Yes.
And a lot of men won't see that. All they'll see is like you're roasting their heroes, and then they'll hate you for it. And they're not going that one logical step next, which is to say, well, why is this guy doing this?
Yep.
Anthony's the one who cares about men. He doesn't want you to be a cult. Oh, so I should attach my umbilical cord to Anthony. No, that's not going to work either.
Yeah.
Precious. You have to stand up on your own 2 fucking feet. And a lot of people are so resistant to that. They're I've accepted there's a ton of people who are just never going to get that. And I'm not on a mission. I'm just like, get it, don't get it, whatever, man. It's up to everybody to figure it out.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and there's just so many people that you're right, like that won't get it, but you just have to say it anyway. Like I know when I roast their hero, there's just going to be so much backlash. Even in the most overwhelming case with evidence, if I do a documentary, like I go above and beyond, you're still going to have 20% minimum of people. Minimum. That's when you succeed. Yeah. That's when you knock it out of the park. You still have 20% who are just absolutely attached like an umbilical cord to this individual, because that person, and I have some empathy in a way, or at least understanding that they are attached to that individual psychologically, almost like in a survival way. Like this is their father I'm attacking. I might as well be attacking their own mother and father, right?
Yes, you are in effect. And I think your analysis is exactly correct. That's the correct way to understand the vociferousness of the defenses, these people have attached to their gurus as primary objects, as primary caretakers, literal mothers
Yes.
and fathers.
Yep.
And there is a survival element to that. You kill my dad, you're kind of killing me. They're
Yep.
also heavily dependent social media and internet users. These are the people who'll be using their phones and their internet 10, 12 hours a day. And so they're very dependent on that external figure to regulate their own emotions. So you
Yes.
attacking them really is a threat. It really is going to damage the quality of their lives. To you, you're thinking, well, what difference does it fucking make? Just get on with your day. Go to work. You should be thinking about this for no more than 15 minutes. But for some people, it actually does ruin their day because they're that fragile and that dependent.
Yeah, and I go after him too. I mean, the memes I make, as you know, are really intense. I just don't stop. And then this is a great one too. I mean, I'll literally take someone's father figure. Let me pull it up, and I'll behead them, or I'll have someone else behead them. Or where's my favorite one? Hang on a second. I know your fans will see this and they'll find this very interesting. Fuck, where'd it go? Oh, I turned him into the Crypt Keeper. It's a good one. But hang on a second.
Who did Aberrant Preach behead on that last one? I couldn't see that because the sun was in my head.
We did that one for sure. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Was it okay? Was that them beheading somebody, or was that them being beheaded?
That was them beheading Fresh and Fit, one of the guys.
Oh, Fat and Fish. Yeah, I remember that.
Oh, this one is of me. This is where I behead the Conovan, I call him, Donna Shart.
Okay.
This is a great. So this is for a lot of guys. He's not as a high level as the Fraud Father, but he was like an underboss to the Fraud Father, and I just behead this guy on a meme. And I did that with the Fraud Father as well. I just have no there's just no, when I see that this is going to be true and it's going to like rile these people up and it's going to really mess with them, I'm just like, go for it to my guy I don't make all these. This one I can't make. If it's really good artistically, I didn't make it. So these ones are above and beyond.
Don't you understand politics, Anthony? You got to politic your way around and make your money, and
Oh, I understand politics. I'm like a bull in a china shop, I'm like a bulldozer. I'm like, just destroy them.
This is Florida man politics.
Yes. Trump is too nice.
Two Glocks blazing.
Yeah, Trump is too nice, man. I mean, Trump at his meanest is where he needs to be at, like, all the time, in my view. And it's where he should have been and where he should go back to. And Ron DeSantis, I love him, but I hope that, like me and you, that as he ages and matures and continues his growth as a human being and a leader, that he will get more and more savage and more intense to the extent that it's useful. If it becomes counterproductive, of course, cut back on it. But I think there's a lot of room for him to grow there, and that he will, and that he has.
There is. He's still young. He's 3 years younger than me, mate.
Wow.
He's 41. He's 41. Yeah, he will. It'll come. It's going to come. It'll come commensurate with the environment, because this isn't over. The environment's going to get crazier and crazier and crazier, and as that happens, the support for a stronger and stronger message will come. I just want to reiterate, I don't want there to be a heavy, harsh backlash to this. I'd like a nice, smooth-ish transition back to sanity and back to reality.
Yeah, I would like that too. So I want to talk more about CPTSD in particular, because as much as it's a basic, fodder for you at this point, a lot of my fans at 21 Studios don't know what that is. They've seen bits and pieces of it in videos I put out, but to me, it's probably the most useful concept that created in the past several decades in psychology to actually help people understand their trauma and help people heal. And this is the book Complex PTSD that you reference a lot. Complex PTSD from Surviving to Thriving by Mr. Pete Walker. Some people accuse you, dude, it's so funny putting out your videos and then you share them, because people who hate follow you. They don't like you. They just follow you because they hate you or whatever, right? They come on my channel then and they drop the nastiest fucking comments about you, like they do about me on my channel. I'm just cracking up. I'm like, he must have this on his own channel a lot. But can you talk to me about the haters as well as complex PTSD and why this is mentioned to understand this?
I don't know why anybody, do people say that they hate Pete Walker or
they say that you're stealing from him, and I'm like, he's not stealing from him. He gives him due credit on frequent occasion.
Yeah, no, I have a relationship with Pete Walker. I mean, we email each other. He's just written what do you call it, like a blurb for my book that's coming out. No, and he's
Wow.
referenced in the book. I reference you can't drive somebody's book sales as much as I have in Europe and then turn around and say no, you're a thief. That's insane.
Yeah.
But do
They
I
also
use his
accuse you.
material?
They also
Yeah.
accuse you though. They're like, Richard's a narcissistic psychopath. Like they're like, he is the narcissist. I'm like, no, you people are stupid. I'm sure, Rich. I'm sure these are questions you probably contemplate. I know I have, and I think everybody as a public figure, anybody who's attracted a lot of attention and hate and vitriol and support, you consider these things. But I've met you and I know you, and you're not. These comments are delusional, but they're funny because they're so wrong.
Well, there's two factors I think that it's not very politically correct to talk about it, but there's a couple of factors that drive this kind of thing. Um, the most charitable way I could put it is some people are too stupid to understand these personality disorders. With I don't know another way of saying, they don't have the intellectual software or hardware to get their heads around it. It's way more complicated than people would like it to be, and the accusation, oh, he's a narcissist, oh, she's a psychopath, is like for dumb people, or maybe not even dumb, but like of middling intelligence. They kind of go, yeah, I know what it is, and you go, okay, what are the 9 traits from the DSM of narcissism? I don't need to read that. Well, then how are you going to tell me you know what it is? Well, I don't believe in psychiatry. So why the fuck are you using a psychiatric term, dumbass?
Yeah.
Use something else. So people want the quick, cheap authority of a complicated, nuanced psychiatric model for what is essentially a defense mechanism to PTSD, but they don't want to have to bother their asses to read what it means. They just want to say it.
Yep.
So there's an IQ issue sometimes. And the second factor is some of the people who you run into online are seriously mentally ill. I mean, some of them
Yep.
are in and out of institutions. They're on very powerful psychotic drugs. And I think the right way to approach this is to be compassionate to a degree, but also very boundaried. So anything like that, I would just block, just delete it, block it. You know, I have followers who will then fight with these people online, and I'm like, what are you doing? There's no good outcome here. That like the person you're talking to is not going to go, you know what? You're right. I'm
Yep.
being unfair. No, that's never going to happen. Don't ruin your day. Just like delete it, block it, or unfollow the person, or whatever it is. But yeah, the that book and the CPTSD model has been a watershed moment in my understanding of psychology, the same as you. It's
Yep.
originally CPTSD is originally Judith Herman's model. She came up with it in 1992, particularly when she was, I think she was comparing the effects on combat veterans and children who were raised in abusive environments, and found that there were some overlaps. Very, very useful view. If I could break it down into something that is unpardonably brutally simple, it would be something like this. When there is PTSD, we have a singular event or events, and largely speaking, the client can remember the event. They're like, I feel fear when I drive the car because I got carjacked. So you go, okay, you remember the event, you have visual memories, you have olfactory memories, you have kinesthetic memories, auditory memories, and the trigger is something specific that relates to the event. And then we have a predictable emotional response. And we can say that the person can flashback. So a veteran flashbacking, a PTSD flashback is, I was attacked inside of a white van. And then every time I see a white van, I go through that memory really, really quickly and relive those same emotions. That's PTSD. This is really rough, and I apologize, but this is probably a good grounding for understanding it. Complex post-traumatic stress is complex in the trigger, in the traumatization, and in the recollection. All these things are complex as opposed to PTSD, which is moderately simple. So what does it require to have complex PTSD? Usually you need to be in a situation you can't escape. It goes on for a long period of time so that it can have a chance to really lay down new neural pathways and effectively change the brain and change the physiology. You cannot be able to escape. You can't fight your way out of it. You can't run your way out of it. You're stuck.
You mean like brainwashing?
What
You're getting kind of warped. Yeah. Or
pretty
it can
much
be. It can be.
yeah, it can be. Well, Even if there's no intention to brainwash you, CPTSD always brainwashes you, actually. You're right with what you said. Even if there's not a person there to brainwash you, like the environment could give you CPTSD. Like if it was the end of the world and you were trapped in the remnants of Miami, having to forage for food and fighting off wild alligators, that would give you CPTSD and you'd be brainwashed by that experience, but nobody's there to brainwash you as such. So the trauma is multiple. There's multiple
And
ongoing
that's
traumas, and they're hard
because,
to
if
go
I
on.
can interject, and that's
Yeah,
because your brain is and your body are trying to adapt to keep you alive, to survive. You're trying to
100%.
survive a complex, traumatic, dangerous situation. At least your brain interprets it as dangerous. And if you don't
Yes,
adapt and survive, you're going to die, or you think you're going to die.
100%.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, and that's essential. So the force to adaptation to stress is essential, and the fear of death is pretty much essential. So war veterans, political prisoners, and you say, well, do the victims of childhood abuse fear death? Yes, even if the parent is not threatening to kill them, because we as children are so dependent on parents and adults. If they attack us, we think we might die, and
Yeah.
the adrenal hormonal response is the same. So yeah, you're right with what you say.
Well, it's also super
The
confusing because your parents are supposed to protect you. So now you're creating
Yes,
there's a couple books I've read that talk about the split this creates in your mind. And that's why maybe this is possibly where things like bipolar disorder come from, and more
yeah,
specific issues where you're emotionally dysregulated and you swing back and forth because your
yes,
parents would swing from protecting you to assaulting you. And that was my
yes,
experience, 100%. As you know,
yes,
we
yeah.
talked about my history. Like, it's wild.
Which is a classic scenario for creating CPTSD and PTSD. CPTSD typically goes hand in hand with PTSD and vice versa. You very rarely find them to be completely separate. We're talking about
Mm.
people who've been raised or been stuck in environments that have been very, very painful. There's multiple triggers, there's multiple reactions. With complex PTSD versus PTSD, typically we would diagnose CPTSD, not PTSD, if the client can't recollect the traumatic incident. So there's no moment of, oh, I was attacked in a white van on a Monday morning on my way to work. It's an ongoing series of humiliations and boundary breaks and terror inductions and so on and so forth, that you have no one specific incident that you can remember. So when you flash back, instead of reliving the time you were attacked in the white van, there's no visual auditory memory there. There's just the feeling, the somatic feeling in the body of being terrified, of being helpless, and all of the emotions that would go with that. Perhaps rage, perhaps sadness, perhaps guilt, or whatever. And so that's the complex side of it. It was induced in a complex way, and it's experienced in a complex way. And doing therapy for it is pretty hard as well. It's quite a bit more complex than PTSD, because even identifying where the trauma is a lot harder. A very, very crude way of comparing it would be like to say, look at the damage done to a body by like a single round, a high caliber round versus a couple of shotgun blasts. You now
Yeah.
have pieces of shrapnel that have spun through the soft tissue in multiple directions at the same time. Digging that out is going to be a little bit more complicated.
Yeah. 100%, man. Well put. Well put. I wanted to show off another book as well. The Body Keeps the Score. This is a book written by a psychiatrist. There you go. Bessel van der Kolk, MD. He lives in America, but I think he's German or something. Great book. And he actually talks about the
It should be
history.
Dutch. Should be Dutch with a name like that.
He might be
Van der
Dutch.
Kolk. Yeah,
Yeah.
Dutch.
Anyway, it's another book that he does mention CPTSD. Well, number one is this a great book in general for understanding trauma and healing from it. It's a very helpful book. But also, he talks about the history of CPTSD. And he actually was one of the ones who tried at least once, maybe twice, to get it put in the DSM. And he ran into a lot of basically corruption and bureaucracy that wanted to stop that because it does need to be added, just like PTSD was eventually added. That took a long time. It was
Yes.
controversial. But I think for example, too, I don't know if you agree with this, but I think CPTSD, it's really moved me away from using the cluster B spectrum to describe people and abusers,
Yes.
and realize that these people also have CPTSD that not only is not healed and not resolved, or was never resolved mostly or completely, but it's spun into specific behavior patterns that are abusive. that we can then, if you want, for insurance purposes or your own insult purposes or whatever, you can throw these at people: psychopath, narcissist, sociopath,
Yeah.
histrionic, HPD, like all this crap. But really, my ex-wife was a famous example. There's a viral speech on it, Medusa. But look, and I was very much in the pro CPT or pro cluster B category intellectually back then when I was studying psychology. That was like the first time I really cared about it, because it was like, and now it was an issue that affected my life so directly. I was like, holy fuck. And it led to a whole awakening too. That's how I found you eventually. But anyway, CPTSD is a much more realistic model, I think, of looking even at the nastiest of people that are abusive assholes. It's like, all right, this person was probably traumatized, didn't heal from it, and that is now a lifelong pattern that they just chose not to heal, and they probably never will. At least you can understand that someone was involved with that too. Doesn't mean they're not responsible for it though.
No, well, that I mean, that's a whole topic there. Whereas our
Yeah,
moral responsibility when it comes to mental health issues, and I'm in the camp that says having a mental health issue doesn't absolve you of moral responsibility. Very
correct.
rarely,
Yeah,
extremely rarely, and that's we won't get sidetracked back into the political debate again, but that is part of the left-wing ideology that infects psychotherapy. Is
yeah,
there is a lot of absolution of guilt that goes on that shouldn't go on. There's a lot of dodging of responsibility that goes on that shouldn't go on. It's just not justified. Everybody has mental health issues. That doesn't mean you go around killing people or assaulting them or raping them
yeah.
or stealing from them. What you've just said is what Professor Sam Vaknin is now talking about. And this guy is a diagnosed psychopath, as you know, diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder, has written best-selling books on the subject of narcissistic personality disorder, plus released multiple papers. And he's saying that it's a response to PTSD, it's a response to CPTSD, and that is how it should be understood. And according to some conversations I had with him recently in Prague, he said that actually there is a movement within mainstream psychology that's moving in that direction that would mean that, yes, the whole view of personality disorders would change, the whole view of mental health would change. And if CPTSD was accepted more broadly into the mainstream, we would have a much more nuanced view
Yeah.
of what these things are and a much better chance of treating them than we do now.
Like I think Sean Smith, a friend of ours, Dr. Sean Smith, psychologist.
So,
If
good
I'm
man.
if I can paraphrase him, 100% agree. If I'm paraphrasing him correctly, basically he thinks that cluster B disorders and stuff, a lot of the personality disorders in general, a lot of it's very cartoonish and it's insurance driven basically. And
Yeah.
CPTSD, I don't know if you would agree with this specific part, but I think CPTSD is a much more realistic model, like you're saying, nuanced for understanding people and personality disorders. It's like, all right,
Well,
you think you want to put an acronym on them, good for you, HPD or BPD. It's like, what that really means is they had, someone fucking molested them for fucking 5 years as a kid and they never healed that. And now they're hypersexual or whatever.
yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with him 100% with that one. I think and it's not mainstream psychology, but many psychologists, many mainstream academic psychologists, even though it's not the consensus view, would agree exactly with that, which is that it's a criticism that's more often made of borderline personality disorder as a diagnosis than narcissism, which is like there's something cartoonish about this. There's something
Yeah.
uh it's almost more stigma than diagnosis at this point. And really, borderline personality disorder is that one disorder beyond narcissism, even, where we really have to ask very hard questions about the discrete boundary between CPTSD and this thing that we call BPD,
Mm.
because they are so similar and they overlap in so many critical and crucial ways. Again, would be a driving force. I know that Judith Herman is pushing for it as well. She wants to change. She wants to integrate CPTSD back into the borderline personality disorder diagnosis and call it emotional dysregulation. But to the
Mm.
broader point that you made, yeah, there's something cartoonish about all of this. I've always said that about narcissism and the way people talk about narcissism.
Yeah.
It's when it's spoken about online, particularly, I can't help but think of Christian Bale playing either Bruce Wayne or Patrick Bateman, driving around in a tuxedo, snorting cocaine in a red sports car, killing prostitutes with a chainsaw. There's something there's something film-like. It's a trope. It's a cliche.
Yeah.
Not saying that there aren't bad people out there. There's terrible, terrible. Human evil exists. Wow, what a claim. But the way it's described is kind of goofy. It's a
Yeah.
little goofy, and it's a little bit over the top. And at some point, you have to say, well, is this diagnosis helping us? Is it helping the client? Is it helping the clinician? Or is it actually boxing us in? And I think that's where, to echo Sean Smith's point that you just told me there, CPTSD is just a much more adult and nuanced view of these things.
Yeah. Yeah, and it helps people realize too that they're not crazy, that like childhood trauma is a serious issue. And I think
Yeah.
you mentioned Hollywood, we're talking about, they cartoonize it and it's kind of ridiculous. But I think one of the downsides of that is that people don't take, I didn't for sure, particularly for men, they don't take childhood trauma seriously. And
Yeah.
it took a very traumatic experience in my life in my 20s with the relationship catastrophe, which was a world shattering event, as Sean would call it, that woke me up to things about male female relationships, the red pill, but also psychopathology, and then even my
Yes.
own, like what did I need to heal and look into? Who did I need to study? Richard Grannon, Pete Walker, Bessel van der Kolk, Sean Smith, all these people, all of you guys. And
I love
that
that
really,
you put my name in amongst those. That's great. Always do
yeah,
that. Always.
yeah,
These guys are all they're like PhDs or MDs.
yeah. You're doing something that they're not, though. You're popularizing it and communicating it to a huge mass of people when they don't have it. Takes a specific kind of personality and charisma to do that, and you have that. And I don't, in some ways they do. Like Sean has succeeded on YouTube to some degree. Speeches he's given at 20. I mentioned his own channel and podcast, but he's primarily a clinical psychologist. He practices his stuff in real life, and that's where most of his time and attention goes. And then speaking and being an author, this is secondary to him. With Pete Walker, I imagine it's pretty similar. He tries to write books. He does, or did clinical practice, but he's not a, no homo, but, a young, funny, attractive YouTube personality that can communicate effectively to a lot of women and a lot of men. And you're across, I don't know how much the political spectrum, but you seem to be able to communicate effectively to a lot of different people, even when they disagree with you about different political issues and cultural issues. And then male, female, like you kick ass at 21 Convention, even though your own audience is mostly women. People on our channel love you, and we put videos out, the men. So not to blow too much smoke up your ass, but you do a really good job at things that they're not, and that they probably can't or would have a really difficult time doing. It's not worth it for them to do it. You need to do it.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And no, it's very kind of you. And it is because I can't really understand it because I'm me. I'm in it. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't really.
Jordan
Well,
Peterson wishes he was you.
Well, it depends what you mean by wishes, really. I don't know. No, I appreciate that. And yeah, there is, there has to be value in making things understandable, and there has to be value in making things approachable, because otherwise you've got the tools exist. It would be like having a weapon and not being able to use it because you didn't know that you had the weapon there. So yeah, I get that.
The humor too, like we can't expect Pete Walker to post alien memes about relationships.
No.
It's not going to happen, but I can do it and you can do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's okay.
So,
That's okay. Poor Pete Walker. He must watch some of my videos and be like, "Fucking hell, this idiot is talking about me and my books all the time," and he says he's always telling cock jokes.
Now I'll say this too, though. I know Sean Smith has openly praised you as well, that he really likes what you're doing on YouTube and in your own line of work as an entrepreneur. Like he recognizes, I think, similar to what I just said, that you're doing something really important in ways that I can't even do. I don't have the particular personality and charisma you do, nor the expertise and focus that you do on this stuff. I find men like you, obviously, to do that, but you're really doing a good job at it, and you're one of the best easily on YouTube doing it. Way better than Jordan Peterson. I mean, obviously, I've made fun of him a lot, but I mean that. I'm not kidding. As much as I'm teasing about, and I like, joking about him and roasting him, I really think that his lobster back codependence, what they think Jordan Peterson is doing, he's not doing. And men like you are, who do have a substantial audience of 307,000 and reach millions, but not at the extraordinary level Jordan Peterson's reached in terms of metrics and data or number of people. You're doing what they think he's doing. He's not really doing it. You are. You're the savage, man. And our clown world, though, doesn't like that. They want to elevate the wrong people to positions of authority and popularity because there's a lot of stupid sheep and they don't want to hear the truth. A lot of them, they think they do, but really they want like the illusion of truth. They want to they want to feel that they're right. They don't want to necessarily be focused on reality and the truth. They just want the illusion of that. And as long as they feel that emotionally, then they're just not going to give a shit. And I think that's why the simps get so mad when I expose that there's something off about Jordan Peterson, the honesty or the his lack of real wisdom. He's just kind of a repeater, like a broken record, repeating other people. Like he doesn't have his own. I don't want to get too deep on the woods in him again in the weeds. But you're doing what he's not, and these lobster back codependents think he's doing. And if they went on your channel, for example, any Jordan Peterson fan watching this and watch your videos, they would get very angry because you would reveal the truth to them, which is going to make them angry, not happy. Maybe long term it'll make them happy, and most certainly I think long term, but it'll trigger the shit out of them. And rant.
That's yeah, it's good. I think it's very interesting what you just said. It's actually going to be something worth thinking about for the next couple of days, which is people don't want the truth, but they want the illusion of truth. It's it's like a Slavoj Žižek point where we don't want the thing, we want the representation of the thing because the thing is too threatening.
Yes.
But the symbol of the thing is controllable, and I can go, oh, I just read 12 rules for life and I made my bed, so I'm a truth follower. It's like
I'm Red Pill. I bought a book on the Red Pill. I paid my $5 on Patreon. I'm Red Pill now, bro. Now let me give you a good example to back you up here. I think you're gonna love it. You've obviously seen the Matrix trilogy of movies, right? The first trilogy.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, they take the red pill, or Neo takes the red pill, and other people do too. They wake up from the Matrix, right? And what do they come to? They come to the real world, which is a crazy shithole. The humanity was basically defeated. So far as they obviously can tell, they live in a fucking cave deep in the earth, right? They're on the brink of extinction and slavery to the machines. But of course, as we find out, spoilers, anybody hasn't seen this fucking famous movie trilogy, but as we find out, that's the freedom fighters. They're all, I'm fighting for freedom. I'm fighting against the machines. It's just another system of control. And it's like these people that, like you're saying, they just want to be the freedom fighters. It's like they don't want to win and wake up to the real truth, which is that, okay, you took this red pill, you woke up, but you're still a slave. You didn't actually escape much of anything. You just feel like you did. You wanted the feeling and the illusion of it, not the reality, which is the whole thing's fucked. And Neo in the movie has to do something even above and beyond that to save humanity and get it out of this rut of slavery.
I think you just made a very Nietzschean point there, which is from Zizek to Nietzsche. You've gone, which is that the attainment of the thing that we say that we want is too much. It's too much. So nobody really wants to red pill. Nobody really wants their fucking wig peeled back like that and their brain just out in the cold. It's too much.
I do.
For most of us, the existential dread would be too much. So I think that's a really valid point. I think that's where a lot of people hate Nietzsche, because they misunderstand him. But he's like you. He's a diehard truther. Yeah. He's a truther. Like, just give me absolute truth or nothing. And the irony is that JP keeps quoting him, and I have a strong suspicion that Nietzsche would not like what JP is doing. I really don't think he would like what he's doing, because it's compromised, it's chopped, it's little bits of truth mixed in with ideological mess. And what Zizek told JP to his face is pointless wisdom. He told him, he said it to his face, I hate wisdom. I hate your wisdom. It's nonsense. I agree. Wisdom is wank. Wisdom is total fucking wank.
I call it what Jordan Peterson does. It's philosophy soup. It's just like people say word salad when people give you like a narcissist, like a legit narcissist would give you a word salad to dodge, to be evasive in answering you and hide the truth from you or whatever. What he's doing is it's not a personal, in your face lie, but it's a philosophy soup that distorts it over, deconstructs, it confuses, it's hyper complex, it's excessively complex, and it's like a word salad, but intellectually and philosophically, so it's philosophy soup.
And there's something comforting in it, which means it's like that kind of soup or broth that you would take when you have a cold. and you can switch off again.
Oh,
I mean, you
who
say,
knows? Who knows? Who can know the truth? Who
who can know?
knows?
Well, it depends what you
Yeah.
mean. I mean, who knows?
It depends what
And
you
you
mean
think,
by the truth in reality. What do you mean?
because your truth isn't my truth. And I'm like, where is all this moral relativistic postmodern bullshit coming from?
Isn't it?
And I
Remember
think,
Bill Clinton? Bill Clinton said, it depends on what your definition of the word is.
yes, it's
I mean,
exactly what Bill Clinton said.
yeah.
It's exactly what Bill Clinton said. It depends what your definition of the word is. And the
I'm gonna
problem with
spit out
what,
my
like,
water.
sorry,
Sorry.
mate.
I almost spit
The
my water out.
the infinite complexity of it usually is a flim flam. It's an obfuscation. There's
Yeah.
nothing there. And you said Jordan Peterson's descriptions are complex. Yes, they're complex, but they're so predictably complex that they're
Yes.
very easy to satirize. And that's how you know there's nothing there. If I can satirize of somebody's philosophy like that, that's an indication there's nothing there. You can satirize Zizek for his modes of thought and his modes of speech, but you can't satirize his philosophy because he is, and it's like him or not like him, whatever. You can't. Jordan Peterson and Zizek are not on the same. They're not in the same league. You know, that's a black belt rolling with a white belt. Zizek is a real intellectual heavyweight, which is why when they did the debate, he steamrolled him. He steamrolled Jordan. He smashed the guy to bits. And not at that point, I lost some respect for Peterson, but I was like, I didn't expect him to do too well against Zizek anyway. But for Peterson's fans, I lost all respect because they didn't see it. He got smashed in front of them, and they just went, "Oh yeah, he did well." I'm like, did well?
Yep.
Did well? He just got thrown in a rolling headlock. You did. You didn't
They're
do
seeing a
well.
different movie. They're seeing a different movie. They're not watching the same thing
Totally,
you are. They're brainwashed.
totally.
Nothing. It's like they're not brainwashed. It's like they're hypnotized. You know, like
And
like it's like a little kid who thinks their father is literally Superman and can do literally anything. Like literally take a
that's it.
bullet and it'll be fine. It's like no, you've been perhaps unintentionally or who knows, right? You've been hypnotized to believing rampant bullshit. This is not reality. This is a human being who's deeply flawed in this case.
Deeply flawed. I mean, like, not to go off on this rant again, but like, if people go and watch the Zizek Peterson debate, it is clear that that Peterson did not even read Zizek's Wikipedia entry. How
Yep.
fucking arrogant can you be?
This is what he does with Ayn
talking
Rand.
to.
This is what he does with Ayn
Right.
Rand. I've found specific videos where he's questioned about Ayn Rand. He's questioned about her on a fairly regular basis, not every day, but it's something that's come up repeatedly over the years with him online in different interviews with Dave Rubin and others. And it's obvious to me as an objectivist who's read 2,000 pages on objectivism, probably more. I know it like the back of my hand for the most part. I'm not a professor of it or philosophy, but I know it really, really well. He doesn't understand our philosophy, even on a Wikipedia level. He hasn't even opened the fucking Wikipedia page. I'm like, this is why when he's asked about it, you obviously don't understand Ayn Rand. You don't understand the philosophy of objectivism, which is a system of philosophy that's very specific. That even you could figure this out in 5 minutes on Wikipedia, at least get a basic elementary understanding of it. He doesn't even have that. He just bullshits his way through it. He talks about her, I said like one Sam, for example, not to be over vague about this, I'll be specific. He talks about how personal responsibility is central to her philosophy. And he was trying to refer to actual fundamentals of her philosophy. This is not true. This is not even close to true. I mean, this is like Christians who argue with me that family is like the fundamental to Christian philosophy. I'm like, no, you have no idea what you're talking about. The word of God, the existence of God, Jesus, self-sacrifice, faith, having faith as an epistemological point of knowing things. You don't have a fucking clue what you're talking about. And when he talks about, dude, Ayn Rand, now personal responsibility will be very important to her personally, but it's not even remotely fundamental to the philosophy. It goes way deeper than that in metaphysics and epistemology and moral philosophy and politics. It's nonsense. And when he said this, I'm like, this is totally straw manning and it's just flagrant bullshit. You don't understand anything about her.
See, I don't know Ayn Rand, I don't know objectivism, and I don't know the interviews you're talking about, but I believe you 100% because of what I saw him do with Zizek. I was like, the level of arrogance and delusion, sheer self-delusion you have to show up to a debate that's going to be watched by millions of people for decades to come and not bother reading the Wikipedia entry on the person you're debating against. You're not well, mate. You're not, like, you really must think you're a very clever chap indeed.
I mean, look at
So
him. I mean, this is
why has he done that? Do we know what the context is for him doing that?
his daughter posted it. I think you could still find it. It was some sort of joke for her school or something. I don't know, some project she was
Okay.
doing. But he dressed
Yeah.
up in drag makeup. I mean, this is very real. Whatever the reasoning was, I don't even know if how much does the reasoning even matter. Like, why did you do that? I wouldn't do that. Like,
Well, if my bukkake videos ever come out online, I'll do the same thing. I'll be like, it's just a joke, guys. It's just a joke.
yeah.
How did we get back onto Peterson? What were we talking about?
The truth and philosophy. Let me go back though. Let me
Okay.
take it off Peterson. You talked about Nietzsche, who I've not read extensively. I've read some of his work, but I need to read way more. He's kind of next on my chopping block to research into. In particular, because yeah, I think so too. Ayn Rand liked him a lot too. Less so as she aged. But even towards the end of her life, she still had a respect for. She didn't respect him like she respected Aristotle and St. Thomas Aquinas, who were her two favorite philosophers by far. But with Nietzsche, she called it his reverence for the soul, or the self-reverence for the soul, like a self-respect almost, but on a level of philosophy. So even though she disagreed with him philosophically, she admired, I think, some of the intensity and the tenacity he had in philosophy to make his points. But anyway, she said something that reminded me of what you said with Nietzsche being, truth, 100% for the truth, the absolute truth, whatever it is. Ayn Rand, I think, through one of her villains in one of her books, actually a novel, but I think it's something she wrote it for a reason. And the quote goes something like this: under the skin, humanity is the same, and I, for one, would be willing to skin humanity to prove it. So, like, basically, like the truth, the ripping the truth beneath the truth, beneath the truth. Like, whatever it is, I'm willing to fucking skin these motherfuckers alive, at least figuratively and philosophically, to find out what's really under the mask. Whether it's a person or whether it's an ideology like feminism, or the radical leftism, or even the conservatives today, who are just like these frauds, and they pretend to care about hypocrisy, but they practice it themselves, and they get mad when anyone like me calls out their hypocrisy, because now, oh, you're attacking one of your own. Same team. It's like, no, I'm not on your team. I'm on the team of the reality. You don't get these people that accuse me. People lately have accused me of being a liberal. They accuse me of being Christian. They accuse me of being conservative. I mean, they're all over the fucking map in the accusations. And the same they're arguing with each other. They're like, no, he's a piece of shit conservative. No, he's a piece of shit liberal. I'm like, you people are retarded. Like, I'm not on your team. I'm on the team of reality and truth. You don't seem to get that. And I'll call out anybody, any fraud or any movement that's stupid or has flaws in it, because that to me is how things move towards reality. You have to call out and expose falsehood, even if it affects someone allegedly on your side of your team. That's probably where it's most important to heal. If you're going to pick some team that's allegedly for truth, well, it better be for the truth, and you better call that shit out. Otherwise, you have traitors in a way in your midst, guerrillas in the midst.
Oh, insurgents and dissidents, they need to be rooted out and gulagged.
Yeah. If you got to go, that's fine. We can wrap up. Otherwise, we can keep talking. It's been an hour and 42 since we started.
I have to start getting ready for work soon, because a good use of my intellectual capacities is to stand on a door in Liverpool and stop people from punching each other's faces in when they're drunk.
Nice.
Welcome to dystopia.
Yeah. Well, then we'll wrap up. I appreciate your time. Next time, maybe we can chat about healing from complex PTSD. Of course, you can also purchase the Richard Grannon Complex PTSD 8-hour masterclass at 21 University. There's a link in the description, and we helped film this for Richard at his request in Poland.
Yes.
It's very, very good, very, very professional, very, very
all
savage.
Exclusive material, guys. You won't have seen this anywhere before. This is just on Anthony's site, 21 Studios.
Yep. There's free previews. Check it out. There's a discount on it right now. And that's today's sponsor with our guests. So fuck yeah. I love it too. It's the only course we have. I typically hate courses online. I just hate them. That's why I don't have them. But this is the one that I do have because I'm really proud of it. And we filmed a lot of it, so I know it's really good. And I trust you and your content and your ideas and your leadership to help people understand these issues and to resolve their own problems. Because you've done it with me. And I speak personally that you really helped my life a lot. And I love it because I like living a better life and not living in a mental storm. of chaos
Good.
and trauma.
Thank you, mate.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Everyone also subscribe to his channel. Go to YouTube, search Richard Grannon. Instagram, same thing. Or how do they find you?
Yeah, Instagram, just put in Richard Grannon, you'll find my
Okay.
leavings there, and YouTube is where there's a ton of stuff. If people don't know me, that's a good place to get to grips with my stuff.
What's your new website too? You took down the old one, Spartan Life Coach, I think, right? You have a new one?
The new website, because the book's coming out soon. The book's out in 3 weeks, mate. It's called Cult of One, Deprogramming from Narcissistic Abuse, and my website is now richardgrannon.com.
Okay, cool. I look forward to the book. I didn't know. I have to interview you about the book. Can I get it? Be in America?
Absolutely, mate. Well, I'm gonna come over to America and promote it. So hopefully we could do a face-to-face interview for that one.
Oh, fuck yeah. I love it, man. And then obviously 21 convention. Oh yeah, big surprise. You'll be speaking at 21 this year. Tickets out in a couple days, about a week from now. Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, man. Thanks for your time. Everybody, thanks for tuning in live and your comments. I didn't read all of them, but I'll go through them and check out a few more. Richard, thank you. Everybody else, peace out. I'll see you next time, next Saturday on the Red Man Group.